Shelter FootyCast live from BackChat Studios. It's the Southern River Band boys. They're in Europe, I think, at the moment. Absolutely doing great things. Skeeter, a big weekend of footy for you and I. Shelterfootycast.com.au. You can get everything you need there. It's hazy season right now at Shelter, so we're going to get Skeeter to scull a hazy. No, we're not going to do that, Skeet. Don't worry. How was your weekend of footy, Skeet? Great to have you.
Good. No, very nice. Just reminiscing with you about some moments, and we're just trying to just get ourselves through the month of June. We just negotiated that and get through the last 2 months of footy. I wish I was in Europe with the boys, because that'd be a better result.
Roadie, Skeeter, pack it up.
Do you reckon I'd be a good roadie?
Probably would be.
No, I wouldn't. I can't lift. My manual labour skills aren't great. I'll tell you what, I'd perform in the other areas, like being a party boy. I think I could adjust to that life. But it was a big weekend of footy and lots to talk about. You know, from an Eagles perspective, Docker's tough result yesterday in terms of just guts it out, and Tom Lynch will find out his fate today.
Will we ever tell that story I just spoke about off air?
You can.
Can I? Well, can I tell it now? I'll tell it now because it's bloody good. So yesterday, Fox Footy, you were working with 7. Fox Footy.
I was with 7, yes.
Sorry. Yeah. You saying we weren't together?
No, we went
for Fox
Footy.
Yes. Anyway, my phone battery was dying. I had my phone charger, and there was a power board in front of me. And there's a lot of different power things. And I said to Pav and Pabs, I said, which one of these do you reckon runs the whole broadcast? It flashed me back to a time where you and I were working together, 4-7, grand final day. Big moment for Skeeter. He's got his nice suit jacket on and he's up and about, and Scully's just trying to make up the numbers. Anyway, about 15 minutes before the bounce, Skeeter was trying to put an investment on, not on the game, but on a horse, on some horse in the fucking 12th race at bloody Dapto or something.
No, it would have been Flemington or somewhere, some major track, yeah.
Anyway, your phone charge was dwindling. And so exactly the same setup, power board in front, instead of being like me and having a joke about it, you just gone, fuck it, pulled out a cord, and instantly we hear the thing, we've just lost comms, please get up to the commentary box, see what's happened.
We need a technical director.
We're sort of sitting there, you're putting your betting account number into your phone at the moment, account number 17. Anyway, and then you start hearing the panic, and like 15 minutes out, like, what's going on, what's happening up there? And I've nudged, I'm like, Skeeter, the power thing you just pulled out. So you've just slyly taken your power board, put the cord back in. All right, we've had a full reset. It's back on. I'm not sure how it's happening.
Nothing to see here. And they came up and I said, you might have just taken that out for a second.
Oh, jeez, it was good. Anyway.
Those types of moments get you through a footy season when it can be a grind. But
I had to give votes that day, and it was a bloody brutal. Like the leading possession getter on the ground,
12.
Like 12 touches. That was brutal.
Darren Harris gave
that was that one. Yeah. Very good. All right, Skeet, let's get into some footy. That is a funny story, though. Skeeter, 7 from 7 on the tips.
Well, I'm just continuing my form, which has been pretty solid.
Mate.
I don't think it was a tough round, to be brutally honest. In fact, mate, you've got.
I tipped Carlton.
Yeah, well, don't worry. I was lining up for that. Don't worry. The round, and we'll discuss this further, but there's no top 8 matchups.
Right.
So there's a bit of a Dullsville there, and there's none this weekend as well, to my knowledge.
Yes.
So
is that right?
The competition itself, has it become a bit like the EPL, where the haves and have-nots? It just feels like we're a long way out from the winning post, and we've got the top 8 basically almost decided, barring one position.
Well, a season like this could. I just still think the 666 would actually create some interest. Play everyone.
So you're talking about the conference?
Yeah, play everyone once. So 17 after 17 rounds, and there'll be a bye or 2 in there as well. You then reset the ladder, you've got the ladder. You reset the fixture. The top 6 all play each other for the top 6 spots for the last 6 rounds or 5 rounds or whatever it is. 6 in the middle play for the last 2 spots of finals. And then the last 6 are playing for draft picks or whatever they want to play for.
So is that a takeoff of the NFL in some degree?
No, well, to be honest, no one really resets the fixture like that.
No.
but it's the only way I can think of doing it, unless you go conferences.
Unless you stick with the current format and have a wild card round, which I know we've become. And if you're Australian, you're going, how much more American can we become? But that is the suggestion that's coming into play at the moment. But given that teams, well, I guess 9, 10, 11 would still be in the conversation to at least be part of September, come around 21, 22, 23. And I know that, having spoken to Simon Garlick, if that ever came to pass, you know the gather round's locked and loaded for Adelaide. It should stay there. You've been there. I haven't.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so you're saying it should stick and stay for that. I reckon he'd be really keen, and he's leading the way, I would think, to propose to have, if there's a wild card round, say in 26, to have it based in one city.
So like 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that what you're talking about?
In Perth, for instance.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, as a wild card round, hosting a weekend for wild card round.
Pre-finals.
Well, it is, yeah. So in this stupid bye before the finals, which really it's a waste of time in my opinion. Apart from the obvious of getting clubs down the bottom end of the top 8, gives them a better chance of winning the flag.
Some would argue the wild card round's a waste of time.
No,
you don't win a premiership from 10.
I agree. So you got no chance. We see it in basketball; it doesn't happen. But if you're trying to keep the season alive longer, again, I'm not huge on the wild card round per se, but if you are trying to keep interest in the game longer, it could be looked at. But mind you, last year, Scully, it was totally different. We had a lot more interest deep into the back part of the season. So I wouldn't just pull the trigger just yet, but there's obviously concern about what we've got for the next 2 months.
Yeah, well, seasons like this cause reactionary movement sometimes as well.
That was very well. That sounded like you'd rehearsed that. That was good.
Thank you.
What was to repeat that?
Reactionary movement.
Yeah, but that first bit, seasons like this, the reactionary. I like that.
Seasons like this create reactionary movement.
Yeah, that's one of your more refined
You
statements.
think I planned it? You think I sit around planning sentences to say?
Well,
I don't do that.
Well, after I brought up vociferous and
I barely know who's playing when I rock up for games, let alone bloody.
You don't undersell yourself. Have you got a law degree or something?
I've got about 16 units of a law degree. I was just going to say, the only thing I don't like about conferences in the NFL is there's some shit conferences and there's some really good ones. So my team's in a really good one. So they've got Detroit, they've got Green Bay, they've got us, and...
You're talking about Minnesota?
We're Minnesota, yep. Minnesota, Green Bay, Detroit, and Chicago, and they're all good. And then you look at someone else like Tampa Bay's, they can almost get through a season and go a losing season, like under 50%, and make the playoffs. So that's the only thing I had about that. Anyway, let's get into some moments. The biggest one, I think, because of my sort of action over outcome stuff that I've banged on about, which I must say, look, I don't think it's me who's changed this, but over the past 6 weeks, I think the tribunal and the AFL have changed their way they've looked at it, and I think they've got a lot more right than wrong.
Do you think Scully has become a sounding board inadvertently for the AFL?
I just said that I had nothing to do with it. Just listen to the words that come out of my mouth.
The way you said it, though, was, I'm not saying that I had anything to do with it, but...
But I had everything to do with it.
Seriously.
Well, Tom Lynch on Jordan Butts. This had bloody Barry Hall Staker written it. It was close to it.
And dare I say it, the Andrew Gaff moment as well, which caused a lot of angst. So, 100% right. And he was a whisker away from affecting what would have been one of the worst moments in footy on field we've seen for the past decade.
So, in saying that, action over outcome, in my opinion, I think this should be minimum 4 weeks. Minimum. You cannot have blokes turn around with a clenched fist trying to punch other players. That's what this was. It was. I've heard Tom Lynch speak about it. He said he wasn't trying to create any harm or anything. I understand that, and you're going to come out and try and defend yourself. But what it was Tom Lynch losing his shit. I've played on Tom Lynch a while ago now. He gets in the red line areas. You can get him over the edge, which is what Jordan Butts did. He had 0 disposals in the first half, 5 free kicks against. So he was filthy, he was angry, and he turned around and tried to punch him. That's what happened.
I was listening to some Talk About Radio on my little walk around the suburb this morning from Melbourne, Talk About Radio, and because I didn't see the incident at the time or the game, because we were at Optus, what I did hear was a lot of people, Richmond supporters, saying, we wanted the coach to take him off before this incident because we could tell there was something brewing. So, yeah, again, that's from people watching the TV, and they could see that he was getting frustrated. And, yeah, look, I wish I could give you a different outcome, but he'll get what he gets from Michael Christian, off to the tribunal. I'm expecting, and you're right. I think it's 4 weeks minimum. He might get a little more, but 4 weeks would be anything less than 4. And we're kidding ourselves, given players are getting 2 or 3 weeks for tackles gone wrong.
Curtis got that 3-weeker. We've had other players with bumps and things that are footy actions.
Football actions, yeah.
That we can't have. 4 weeks is unders, actually.
If he makes greater... Put it this way, it's Butts, wasn't it, the player?
Yeah.
If he gets concussed, that is 8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah, but you probably made a good example with the Gaff Brayshaw. Now, same thing, that's 8 weeks because of outcome, but it's a terrible action. And it goes slightly more wrong in that instance and completely breaks a young kid's jaw. So if that's slightly wrong, you hit him in the right spot, you don't know what happens.
It's a bad look, and just hearing the commentary and those at the ground, they were shocked to see, because you just don't see anything like that.
Yes. Now, you'd be a fan of this. I assume you sort of probably Friday nights kick back with a bourbon and coke and put Andre Bocelli on. I'm assuming, Skeet.
SCG man.
Well, April 3rd he sung there. Did you go to that?
This might surprise you. I haven't been anywhere since January. In fact, I've stuck in my man cave, and I'll hopefully get out of there by October.
You yelling to Alexa in the corner. Alexa, play Andre Bocelli.
Time to say goodbye. SCG, time to say goodbye.
Yeah. Time to sort this pitch out. That was bad.
But it's not. No, there's no change for this week. Nothing will change. It'll stay. The SCG will host the Dockers this weekend.
So I've seen this, and I bloody enjoyed.
You love that Twitter stuff, don't you? Or the X
I'll
stuff.
have to get it up because Goss went. Goss just said, there's got to be a chance this game gets moved.
Did he say there's speculation?
That the SCG game next weekend against the Freo Dockers is going to be moved.
So where's that speculation from?
Well, I'll read the quotes out because there was bloody good back and forth because I think Goss is right, to be honest. There has to be... Did you see this game?
Yeah, I did.
Mate, did we work it? Did we call it together?
No, I was sitting at home and you were whinging about being at the...
The way you said it was like we worked it together. Mate, it was... I'm surprised no one got injured more.
So, essentially, the surface was... for the players, you couldn't keep your feet. Was that the end result?
Goss has gone with early speculation next week. Sydney Swans Freo Dockers game could be shifted away from the SCG due to concerns on the surface. There's 160 mil rain forecast midweek.
That's a lot of rain.
Yeah. Tom Chadwick, who's head of Sydney media.
Yeah, he's a good operator.
He sits on the bench at Sydney. I saw him on the broadcast.
And you know what? Sydney are one of the better clubs when it comes to dealing with the media, I would say.
Tim, this is not correct. The game will be played at the SCG. And then people come in and out. Kane Corn slipped in there.
Kane?
Yeah, Kane said, come on, Goss, stop giving the ballers a bad name. Goss said, I'll go back to my source and shove the words, it's a disgrace and we shouldn't be playing on it next week, back down his throat. That's from Tim Goss.
That's from Goss?
Yeah. And then Tom Chadwick. We have had very constructive discussions with the SCG, Tim. The turf is top priority and we'll be right to play on next weekend as we take on Fremantle. So it doesn't sound like Sydney are going to move this game. Where would it move?
I don't know, but where Goss is moving is into dangerous territory because he also put an X-tweet post on the weekend, whatever it is. I sort of sit back in the grandstands, have a look. The Pink Pony Club has derailed or something.
Toby, the Pink Eye, mate, is a great defender. He was having
a bit of a dip in it. So Goss is much just gone, well, okay.
Just take everything you see on X to grain of salt. You can have a laugh. Everyone can just have a laugh at it. I just found it interesting when officials of clubs get involved like that. Imagine if they do move. Where would they move it to?
Well, I remember calling some games for 9 out at
Sydney Olympic Park.
Yeah, with the Olympic Homebush. Yeah, Homebush. That was pretty average facility.
Played a game
and Sydney and Fremantle there would get 13 people. It wouldn't be well populated. But there's a turf doctor, obviously, at the SCG. They use a turf doctor.
Excuse me?
They use a turf doctor to check the penetrometer and all those other elements.
We spoke about the penetrometer on Saturday night. I thought that might have been your nickname back in the 80s or something, the penetrometer mark ratings.
What, the level of hardness? No, it measures. It gives
What's a penetrometer?
Well, gauges the surface and in terms of whether there's enough give in the surface. I'm heading into territory I'm not quite sure of it. But it's a penetrometer. But racetracks have it all the time with regards to, is it a firm surface? Does it need watering? Does it need extra fertiliser?
And so what's the penetrometer say about the SCG?
It's too slippery.
Yeah, correct. From what I saw, it was very, very bad.
But quickly,
if someone got injured on that, then it'd be a big question mark.
Is there anything you can do with footwear that would help that?
Well, I would say that, like, Aaron Francis was one who just kept falling over. There is a level of you need to keep your feet. There was probably a scale of a couple of guys slipped over a couple of times, but then there was a couple that just like literally like on an ice rink. And so...
Isn't it funny the better players somehow, generally, find a way to stay upright?
You've heard me talk about this. It's a mentality as much, but there's a difference between a mentality on a wet ground that's in good nick and whatever they were playing on. There's like a sandpit out there. Essendon Skeeter have got some big issues. They've had the bye, and usually in the bye...
you just rest up.
Get some players back.
Yeah.
It's like Fifey hurting himself without even playing last night. Darcy Parish, Mason Redmond, Kyle Langford, all very important players at the Bombers who are already ravaged by injury, have hurt themselves at training on Saturday. Like that is just a disaster for me.
Yeah, look, I guess you'd be questions on the strength and conditioning and their program and what they were doing. But Langford's had some issues with his quad, so that you know. If you've got a buy, I'd imagine, you tell me, if you've got a buy, you're still going to put in a decent shift at training, aren't you?
They usually give you play and then you get 4 days off straight away.
Yep.
They don't like to go straight back to training, full week, give you a break, and then that's usually the mode. You sort of treat it like a 10-day break almost, as you know, you start training again 10 days out from your next game. There'd be questions, mate. But if that was a better club. If that was someone who was competing for finals and that happened to buy, it would be a bigger story, I reckon. Talking about big stories, Carlton still is the talk of the town. After the performance that Carlton put up against Port Adelaide on the weekend, they were absolutely, for at least the first half, nowhere.
It was a spiritless performance, and it was exactly the opposite of what everyone thought. So, Michael Voss, the question is, what happens with him? Does he last until the end of the year? Graham Wright, who's been at the club but not yet the CEO. One thing I will say is that Brian Cook, who has been in charge there for some time now, he doesn't have a record of just being trigger happy. So I would be staggered. Look, they got beaten by 120 points by Collingwood on Friday night, perhaps, but I think they will hold the line with Vossi until the end of the season, then reassess, which I think they should do. To be totally honest, I'm not sure much can be achieved in the last 2 months by causing upheaval. Carlton's had so many changes of coaches in the past 6 to 8 years. They don't need to go down this path again. In fact, if I was a club, I know you might have to do a turnaround at the end of the season, but what's wrong with coming out and saying Michael Voss will coach until the end of the home and away season? Yeah, well, nothing unless they think that they're going to go backwards in the next 8 weeks. Like, I would say it hurts the club if they keep putting out performances like they did against Port Adelaide. So I guess, the pressure's on him to show that this is probably no different to Adam Simpson, I reckon, to a point. Oh, well, yeah, yes and no. I mean, and to be totally honest, Adam's numbers in terms of win-loss ratio was dire. Vossi, given the prelim final 2 years ago, expectations high. I just wonder whether the Carlton football department have overestimated the list. Or have we? I look at it. Maybe both. Yes. I look at it and think it's pretty bloody good, especially the top end is. The top end's one of the. Well, I'd say the top 8. They're a top 8, top end talent side. The question marks come when we start to see some depth, but the middle part of their ground. We've spoken about this. The spine. It's good, but that's not the totality of what we're seeing, and unfortunately, and their game style. I know I'm not talking about that game specifically yet, but their game style of contested possession, which it sucks. It was working 2 or 3 years ago to get to a prelim, but the game's gone past them, and their contested footy hasn't even matched what they did 2 years ago. So that leaves you in a world of pain. There's a bit of vandalism down at Icon Park. Keep Voss, sack the board, TDK, yes or no, sack Austin, sack Lloyd. So that's Nick Austin, the list manager. Which reminds me of manager. Richmond having a truckload of manure dumped out the front of their offices going back. When was this? Oh, this is going back 30 years ago. Might have been, I'm not sure if Terry Wallace was coaching. Yeah, a pile of poo was dropped out the front of Punt Road. Seriously. That's actually funny. That's a fact. Maybe Danny Froy might have been coaching, but it was in that era when they were pretty average, and then someone said, "Okay, I'm just going to dump a whole truckload of poo out the front of Punt Road."
at one stage, pranks were pretty big at West Coast. Like there was a few things going around, and me and a couple of other players ordered not manure, but just like mulch, and just got like a huge truckload of mulch dumped on one of the players' driveways in behind their car. So we put a message to the people, hey, just drop it in behind my car. They had to shovel it out to get out. Oh, that's good. Very good.
Shout out to Blue McKenna, who used to do all that at the Eagles going back before your time.
All right, Shelter Brewing Co., the beer that we can't get enough of. Will Schofield, Mark Redding's Shelter FootyCast. All right, Skeet, let's get into the games. Fremantle 81 defeated St Kilda 69 Optus Stadium. This was yesterday evening with a late Sunday kickoff. It was an interesting game, this one. Fremantle kicked 5 of the last 6 goals to run over the Saints, who I must say dominated most of this game. They gave them a complete lesson through the middle of the ground for 3 quarters. Their midfield was far superior in first possession, in clearance numbers, in metres gained. Yes, Freo won the hit-out count significantly and easily, but the game plan from Ross Lyon had Freo done for most of this game, and it was St Kilda's lack of ability to finish and connect after that dominance, which meant Freo were there, and then, to positively finish it up, Fremantle were then strong enough and galvanised enough to then go, hey, we're not getting this done, we all need a lift. And the last quarter was elite by Freo. But the first 3 quarters wasn't. That was alarming. They got absolutely trolled through the middle of the ground.
They did, and you're right. And St Kilda's numbers were outstanding. And generally, you're going to win games if you continue in that mode. And I think they kicked the first of the last quarter from memory. Was it Higgins who put them with that late early goal? But yes. To be fair, and it's, you can look on the negatives, but the positives were that they found something, and they were led by the 2 ruckmen essentially in that last quarter who did hit the scoreboard and provided the impetus, and they did turn it around. And it was outstanding the way they were able to turn momentum, because momentum was right against them. And as you said, Ross coached extremely well against Fremantle and had the game on his terms for all but I reckon 20 minutes of the day.
The biggest talking point out of this game is the reason that Fremantle won this because of their last quarter was their 2 ruckmen. 3 of the goals were kicked by ruckmen.
That's what I just said, yeah.
Sorry, but I just want to explain it a bit more.
About their impact, yeah.
Sean Darcy received the ball from Luke Jackson. Luke Jackson marked the ball as a forward. Sean Darcy slid forward as a ruckman. Then the 2 goals that Luke Jackson kicked, he was playing as a forward. Those 3 goals do not happen. Like, it's 0 goals if you've got just Luke Jackson in the side. They are a better team with those 2 in it. And you can't change my mind, Skeeter. You cannot change my mind. They are a better side with those 2 in the team. Now, Luke Jackson's game may not be as dominant as we saw against the debutant or as we saw in the other game he played by himself. He's a number one ranked player in the game over the last 6 weeks. But Freo want to win a premiership, and they'll do that quicker with these 2 in the side, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, it'd be one of the rare cases where 2 recognised ruckmen have been able to combine in more modern history, don't you think? And I think it's a small sample size because we haven't seen a lot of them together. But you're right, yesterday was a case in point. We saw it against North Melbourne where they double-teamed Sherry against Witts on the Gold Coast. So they're starting to, under certain circumstances, under regular circumstances, yes. There'll be times, I think, where it won't quite have the right mix perhaps against their opposition ruckman, but yeah.
It's pretty rare that one of them can play midfield. That's why we haven't really seen it. Like, Gawn and Grundy, they're both just big lumping ruckmen. Natanui and Cox was probably the last time we saw a proper ruckman being able to play as a proper midfield. Nick Nat used to go in there as a, clearance player.
The Panther used to just go chase them down, yep.
Yeah, correct. But... Sean Darcy, that's the best he's looked. He looks fit. He looks skinny. I reckon he's lost a lot of weight. He's worked his ass off to get in there, and I'm going to back that in. And I think if they go and continue to have success with those 2 in the side, I think the contract talk will quiet down as well towards the end of the year, especially if they make a run at it.
I don't think the contract talk will quieten down from outside because people, if he plays good footy, will ask the question. Then it's up to Fremantle, who will be in a luxurious position, I would have thought, to make the call. Speaking of calls, you were in one box, I was in another. We're going 7 minutes to go, and that Fyfe's not going to get a run here. Now, we weren't aware at that stage that he had the tightness in his calf. I'm not sure if you had the information
Didn't have the info, but at the start of the last quarter, they crossed down to him, and I made the comment on air, Nat Fyfe does not look like he's interested in coming on here. I don't reckon they're going to put him on because he was sitting up the back, arms crossed, zipped up to his chin. You know when the player's about to come on, like they're
prowling the sideline, yeah.
Didn't do anything. He was just sitting in the back row. So whether or not no one's lying. I mean, do you think that?
No.
Do you think that was the plan all along to just break glass in case of emergency, or do you think he actually calf awareness happened at half time?
Oh, I've got to believe the club.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to believe but that makes me feel a bit better as a normal civilian that he can have some calf soreness just in a half-time walk.
I walk up the stairs and calf tightness and awareness. Sitting right here, I've got calf awareness. I mean, it's not ideal for him, though. It wasn't ideal that he was sub in the first place.
So what do you do with him next week against Sydney, for instance? Does he clearly he's probably not going to be fit if he's not got the calf, so you're not going to play him at all.
I don't think you can risk it.
No.
And then
he have to come back via the waffle, doesn't he? Because he hasn't played any footy. He's played 2 as a sub, 1 as a subbed off. This not at all. Look, and it's difficult because as we were talking in the last quarter, was he suited to come on as the sub anyway?
Yeah,
I know he was fresh legs, but not quick legs. So interesting. It's one that Justin Longmuir, and he's juggled. He's very loyal to his players. So I'm sure he'll find a way to make Fyfe feel as if he's got a big part to play in the back end of the season.
Just a shout out to second gamer Alex Taru. You know I'd be very excited about his game. He had 14 spoils, most ever by a Saints player.
It's huge.
Equal. He flew at everything. He was the Flying Viking.
The Swedish background.
Yeah, the Flying Viking is one of the great nicknames of all time because it's true. He just flies at everything.
What about this first game? Had all his family and friends with the Swedish Viking outfits on there. And I'm going to ask you a quick question. Just watching him yesterday, and he was spoiling the ball a lot, and he might well end up being one of the great defenders of all time. Given his ability in the air, do you see at some point he could be used at the other end of the ground?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we've seen some. I mean, we don't have to go much further than Jeremy McGovern, as someone who used to fly at everything, who at times was talked about as being a forward, but he was just a backman. Some guys are just backmen, and they go better with having a point of reference.
He's only 2 games in, so you're right. Ross probably knows him best, but it does. I only mention that because you think of blondes from St Kilda who've been able to attract a cult following and have been superstars. Nick Riewoldt, obviously, in that category, coming down from Queensland.
193 centimetres, so he's
not.
That's similar to probably Nick Riewoldt, actually.
But he is before your time and probably before mine. But Trevor Barker, the late Trevor Barker, was such a cult figure, and he like that. He just used to just fly at the footy. Times though, as a defender, just quickly, do you reckon when you're in the position to take the mark and he hasn't, he's just gone the fist? Is that a confidence time in the middle, or you think that is just the defender's motto?
A bit of both. I mean, it's a learned skill to be able to turn those opportunities into marks, and I'm sure as he gets older, he'll figure it out. One thing that's difficult to teach is how he flies at the ball. So like you
reckless on his own body.
Yeah.
Hopefully he doesn't injure himself.
You can teach how to mark and body positioning and that sort of stuff, but like the way he was jumping around, I haven't seen something like that for quite some time. If you're not a listener of BackChat, you just listen to the show FootyCast, I'd implore you to tune in tonight on BackChat, just on the spoiling and the defender stuff. There's one of the great atrocities in the AFL happening right now to the Golden Fist. I saw the leaderboard.
I see Dacos in there.
I saw the leaderboard of the Golden Fist.
I saw it looked like half of them were midfielders.
And I'm not going to go too hard now because I'm going to absolutely unleash later on today. But the top, I think the top 6, Lockie Ash is in there. With all due respect to Ash from GWS.
Yeah, number 7. Yeah,
he's a
running half back.
I don't reckon he's defended all year. John Noble. John Noble has 30 touches a game and 15 of them are kick-outs. Josh Weddle is a defender, but he goes forward sometimes. Bailey Dale had 56 touches the other week. Josh Dacos is just a... Mate, what are they doing? It's a disgrace.
So what is the metric there that they've had the most number of spoils? Is that how
I reckon they've got a midfielder or a forward running it, and I'll just tune into BackChat. I'll give you some more on that. But they're just one of the great...
I look forward to it.
One of the great... Yeah, you won't be telling me. Couple of bit of feedback from people on Instagram. Jacob says, not playing our best but winning games is a sign of maturity.
Freo?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ben Hopkinson says Swaggy and Jacko legacy game, up the rucks, which we've just spoken about. And then I saw this a little bit. James on Insta said, booing of Ross Lyon, and I'll put in of Liam Henry. It was a bit on the nose, but good nonetheless. Why were they booing Liam Henry?
No,
The Freo fans didn't want him there in the first place, so we got traded.
I'm not sure they didn't want him there in the first place. I think they were disappointed when he left. He was a high-end draft pick.
And Freo got rid of Ross Lyon as well.
Yeah, Freo. Yeah, Freo got rid of Ross. You know, if Ross wins a premiership in 13, he is given a hero's welcome every time he returns to Perth. I sort of get it. It's a bit of
do what you pay your money, do what you want.
As Ross says, it's a bit of a pantomime. I mean, Liam Henry, there's nothing untoward. I think it was just booing, which pretty tame.
All right, Skeeter. Let me tell you, I'm going to have to find something else because I don't think that is correct. But I will tell you right now, Skeeter, that the hazy season is on, and is the footy better with shelter? I need to know. I need to see on our website, Shelter Footy. Just hold up. I always get this bloody wrong. I'm all over the place sometimes. You know this, Skeeter. shelterfootycast.com.au.
Luckily we're not live.
Correct. Shelterfootycast.com.au. You can go there and tell us, is the footy better with shelter, and specifically the hazy, for your chance to go in to win the big weekend getaway down south. Use hazy20 at checkout at shelterbrewing.com.au. Get yourself a carton of hazies. Enjoy it watching the footy. Do it this weekend, and we're awarding the winner on Monday. You need to let us know, though, on shelterfootycast.com.au. Is the footy better with shelter? Maybe it's worse. We don't know. But Hazy20 will get you 20% off at checkout. Go and sort yourself out right now. Collingwood 88 defeated West Coast 59 at Marvel Stadium Saturday. How did you see this one, Skeeter? I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed what the Eagles put out. Yeah, and their young players are showing a heat. Tom McCarthy, young guy who's just taking to it like a duck to water. The younger players were good. I thought they showed a fair bit of spirit. Their skills at times, I know you mentioned their handballing really let them down from time to time. Their set shots as well, which, I mean, it wasn't a game of high quality, I didn't think, but I thought what they did, they put Collingwood under pressure early. A lot of the elements that Andrew McCullough was trying to instill in them, they implemented, and I think Collingwood were probably a couple of steps off their best. I mentioned on radio with you, I thought they were playing with a bit of arrogance. I'm not saying they're an arrogant team, but and I also ask you this pre-game, when you're top and you're playing a team that's bottom, it's not just a physical challenge, it's a mental challenge, because you can't be at that optimum week in, week out. And I reckon Collingwood went through a bit of that on Saturday night. But that's not to take anything away from what West Coast did.
Yeah, I agree with David on Instagram, who says, game plan on show, but not quite at level to adapt if opposition changes their approach. Still positive signs. I agree. This is why I've been positive about West Coast over the past, however long I've been positive about them, about 2 weeks. I think you can really see a game plan that, yes, they don't quite have the cattle out there. They don't have the experience in doing it, but you can see after probably 10 weeks, first up, that the following 6 weeks have been, you can see that they want to run and gun and take the game on with hands a bit more than they have been, and they're executing it a bit better. They looked the most dangerous when they kicked mark, found a mark, and then boosted past the man of the mark. How's my voice going? To take the game on, to get it inside 50 with lower numbers. They look dangerous against Collingwood multiple times.
And they moved the ball pretty comfortably against Collingwood. Now, again, that was a credit to them. Maybe Collingwood weren't as strident as they normally would be with being able to block up the avenues forward. But, yeah, look, there's a lot of positives. Liam Baker continues to work his backside off as a leader, potential leader of the club, and obviously midfielder of great quality. So Jack Graham, they've got they're probably the two senior players left inside that centre square that have got some. And Tim Kelly, I thought, played one of the better games of his year so far.
Yeah, I thought that was his best game, and he didn't have 30 touches. He had like 15 touches. I thought what he did with it, and the role he is playing, they're playing him in a completely different role than he's usually played. He's played in the forward line, playing as a fifth mid. Brady Hoff was the number one ranked player on the ground at the end of this one. He had 27 disposals and a goal. He went at 100% efficiency. 27 disposals at 100%. The same couldn't be said about a few of his teammates, to be honest. He was elite.
Poor old Liam Duggan, he couldn't hit a target early.
Butchering it by foot, and he would know that as well. Hoff was sort of head-to-head with Dacos at stages, I thought. I'd be interested to know exactly what the game plan was against Dacos, because at times he was just running around like with no one near him, but then it felt like it was a forward half, back half sort of plan where back half let him do what he wants, forward half tighter operation. Handled him pretty well, but Nick Dacos is a stay at 34 disposals and a goal, probably his best. Scott Pendlebury had 28 in a goal, but he was really fumbly, actually, for Scott Pendlebury, and that's for Scott Pendlebury, not for others. He was actually pretty good compared to most other players in the league, but he probably summarised a bit of Collingwood. Still good and good enough to win, but probably just not at their usual standard because they didn't need to be.
And I just wonder at this stage of the season, given they're 10 points clear on top of the table, whether now or they're about to enter a heavy training load, or, essentially, you suspect Collingwood will have a dip between now and the end of the home and away season.
But that might be it.
You're right. But that might be, if that's their dip. And they haven't been, St Kilda they beat by, 34. The North Melbourne, they sort of kicked them clear in the last quarter. Maybe that's just they're down a few weeks. So at Carlton this week, and that's one matchup I think they might get themselves back up for.
With how inexperienced these guys are, Brady Hoff playing on Nick Dacos, Jack Williams being the number one forward against Darcy Moore, Harry Edwards playing on Myercheck and others in the forward line. Like, these guys are getting exposed to the best matchups that they wouldn't usually be getting exposed to with McGovern, Yeo, Allen, Waterman in the side, the four best players. And I think if they can commit and buy into this game plan, that these 8 weeks coming up could be extremely valuable to their development. Like, they could catapult themselves into being a competitive side, which they're sort of starting to show next year by the next 8 weeks.
Yeah, and if they can draft with prudence, get those senior players back. Job Shanahan kicked the goal on debut, which is always a lovely moment. First kick in AFL footy, I think it was. I think we recalled that. Yeah, I stand corrected on that. But either way, if you've got him and, look, Archer Reid, we think's a talent. Job Shanahan, probably, he's an out-and-out forward, is he?
No, they play him at either end of the ground,
Yeah.
but he looked forward-ish. I reckon he needs to learn the speed of the game, a bit better as a forward than as a backman. I reckon you get exposed pretty early as a backman, especially with no senior players around you. I mean, remember Sandy Brock had to go and play on Charlie Curnow and 10 goals on him basically in his first. But yeah, I like Job Shanahan. He jumped it a lot, got his hands on a lot, didn't quite clunk them, but positive signs there as well.
Yeah, good win. Collingwood, as I say, they're going beautifully. And the Eagles, funny, you got the one win next to their name, but you feel quite positive compared to this time last year about what they're doing.
Yep, agreed. Let's get into the rest of the game, Skeeter. Okay, Port Adelaide defeated Carlton. We spoke a little bit about the result of this game and what, the aftermath, and I guess we're going to hear about that more today and tomorrow, depending if there's any movement. This was Thursday night, so he's not going to get sacked overnight or anything like that. That would have already happened, I think. Did see some footage after the game of the power brokers in there all squirreling away and talking out the side of their mouths. I hate that. So I don't know if you saw it. I was watching.
I was doing the game.
Well, so when you're in the rooms, there's cameras in there. If you're a leader, you're in there to get shown. You can have a conversation anywhere you like. You can all stand around the huddle in a room off to the side. So they're in there to show that they're all talking away. I don't like it, but maybe they're just talking about what the surf's like on the weekend. I don't know, but I sort of saw a few of the Carlton sort of movers and shakers bobbling around in there, which I don't really.
I said Cookie. I don't think he'll pull the trigger anytime soon. Mitch Georgiades kicks a handful again. He's having a really good season, isn't he?
He's some big bags. 7
against Melbourne, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And the best of Port Adelaide, they're in that sort of space now where, again, I don't think they can play finals. I'm pretty sure they can't play finals in terms of where they're at, but they can certainly shape a bit ahead of them in terms of up the ladder. They can cause some issues for some clubs.
Charlie Curnow, he's goalless again. Like, is that just a result of his midfield not giving him the supply, or is he not quite?
I thought he competed well. He had some chances. He had, in the last minute or two, absolutely botched a shot in space. Yeah, he was down. Patrick Cripps had illness coming into the game, so I reckon he was a step or two off it as well.
Yes.
It was. Look, their first half was just deplorable, and their effort.
50 points was like a nice.
It was probably it flattered them.
Port had 50 more marks on the day. So they just...
Well, that's exactly that's the stat.
Marks is effort. So you can control uncontested marks by going and playing on someone. And if you don't want to do that, then you can't win games of footy. So I don't know where Carlton goes to for the rest of the year, but we'll have to, I guess, watch with bated breath.
Well,
They got the Pies at the G Friday night. Did you already say that? I didn't listen.
Yeah, and I've talked about the fact that the focus will be on what happens against if they get blown out of the water
I didn't listen to a word you said.
Thank you very much.
So what if that's a bloodbath?
Well, it could be. I mean, it's all up to Collingwood. If they
foot on the throat,
if they want foot on the throat mentality, and whether they get Maynard back, whether they get a few players, but to go, he's forgotten man, and you've got some qualities waiting to come back into that side. Bobby Hill, of course, missed on the weekend as well. So
Collingwood's clearly ruthless enough. Yeah, towards the back end of the year, like you just said, you got ups and downs and ebbs and flows. That's a motivator. Hey, we can our biggest rival, we can
really crush them.
Put them to the sword.
Yeah, so that's Friday night. It's sort of like a macabre viewing spectacle. But Port Adelaide, that was, Kenny's going to bow out, hopefully with a bit of momentum on his side, and he'll last the season. So will Voss, I'm hoping.
Western Bulldogs defeated Sydney 105-96 in a pretty good game at the SCG Friday night. If we take the ground out of it, which we've already spoken about, the Dogs got out to a pretty big lead in this one. They were out by almost sort of 5 goals, and then Swans came back and hit the front midway through the third quarter. Isaac Heaney had kicked 5 goals, 4 of those in the third quarter when they decided to start playing him as a midfielder. They did this 2 weeks ago. I don't know why they're persisting in going, we have to get a player in front of the footy and get some representation there. Play your best players on ball and you get what you get. 21 disposals and 5 goals. But he probably wasn't the best player on the ground. Joel Frazier, I would say it's his breakout game. I know he's been playing well this year and we've seen bits and pieces, but to kick 4 goals, 3 of those goals in that same quarter that Isaac Heaney kicked 4, there's been comparisons in the past to Bontempelli, right and left footers, as in Bont being the left, Joel being the right. He was picked 45 in the draft. He has just come out of nowhere and is seemingly going to be a huge player for them for the rest of his career.
It's and that's that next level player that Coach Beveridge will be looking for. And, Bont in his milestone game wasn't overly dominant. Sam Darcy kicked 3 from 10 disposals. And so on that basis, given McCartan, who was late admission for City, McCartan was the laid out. So you thought, wow, there's some concerns here.
He kicked 2 in the first 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah. And you thought, hello, here's a long night. To be fair to Sydney, I thought, 30 goals kicked in the game was a real shootout. I thought they hung in there really well. And it's just having those important players back in the side mean that they're in games. I mean, they led the inside 50 to 46. Clearances they won.
Yeah, well, Lloyd played as a forward for most of the game. He had 4 shots on goal after being dropped last week. He had 14 marks and 4 shots on goal. He was playing a bit of a different role. Errol Goulden looks like he's lost absolutely nothing. He had 30 disposals. So they've got their best players back as well, Sydney. I expect them to really challenge some sides in the back part of this year. So if you're playing Sydney,
watch out. Yeah, 100%.
Fremantle. Next week.
I think it's a huge danger game. In fact,
of course it is. It's a bloody hard game to win.
Without preempting, I think Fremantle have got it up against it to win against a Sydney side that, in front of your motivation levels are going to be different because you're not playing finals. That was their grand final for me. You're not playing finals. You're setting yourself for next year, and maybe Coxie now can have a look at how this team will look because they need to find some. They're going to be fishing for a big catch at the end of the year.
If Freo can beat GWS, Gold Coast and Sydney away this year, they are, other than like Collingwood at the G, I reckon they're 3 of the biggest scalps you can take away from home because there's a longer trip.
Well, it's a bit like the Giants, what they've done, beating Brisbane up at the Gabba, Geelong in Geelong. That's in that territory,
2. Yeah, they're their other 2. Freo didn't quite pull the Geelong and Geelong one. I think it done by like 100 points at the start of the year. Very good. Gold Coast 104 defeated Melbourne 85. Saw nothing of this at People's First Stadium. How do you say it, Skate?
Yeah, I saw 0 because I was heading down to the Waffle. So I will be honest with you, except to say that this was on track, as Damien Harvick said, for an absolute poleaxe. It should have been a 10-goal win.
Jake Melksham kicked 5 goals, 6, 11 shots on goal.
They've kicked 5 goals to 1 in the last quarter at Melbourne to tidy up the result. But it just also You go back a week before, the Suns completely stopped against the Giants, overrun, conceding 8 goals in the last quarter. Here, they're never really in danger of losing it, but yeah, what it does do is it was the victory they did have to have, and they did it off the back of setting the scene in the first quarter, 5-7. I mean, you talked about their first quarter against the Giants, and you said it was as good as you've seen. Well, they've had 12 scoring shots to 1 in the opening quarter.
Wow. Okay. Well, they set themselves up by doing that. That was to 1 behind, thanks to Melbourne. So they got absolutely rolled here. I'm not going to try and break it down, Skeeter.
Well, but the Suns, look, they've got a game in hand. They probably should play finals from here, shouldn't they?
Percentage is very good. I'm just looking at the ladder. GWS, Gold Coast and Western Bulldogs are on the same amount of points, but GWS's percentage is 107 compared to 120 for Gold Coast and 131 for the Bulldogs. They've got the third biggest percentage. So that's going to be a big deal for GWS if they fall equal with someone.
True. And how about this? The Suns play Essendon on Saturday. We've mentioned the injuries they've just got. And this will be...
Is this the double header that we've got?
No, we've got them, and then they've got to play, another 7 or 8 weeks later. And once that happens with Essendon out of contention and the Suns seemingly playing for a spot in the finals or a ladder position inside the finals, Essendon will have every player put out to pasture. And so that's where the draw, as you have forecast in...
Long time ago.
I know March, that this would be egg on the face for the AFL.
I don't know what other options they had, but they had to find a better option than they're doing right now because it's going to be a farce. There's going to be a side that is sitting in 8th and Gold Coast in 9th or something like that, and they're going to have to sit and watch.
Essendon just, with all the players in surgery, post-season surgery, rested, off on holidays, Kentucky
you'd have to
tours.
sit around for bloody 5 days and wait for these idiots to go at it because they couldn't get a game away during the year. Jesus, AFL. Hawthorn 150 defeat, North Melbourne 65. North Melbourne were shite. They were just nowhere. Like, they were just absolutely shit house in this game. There's no better way to describe it. There wasn't even big major stats getters. They just got wiped. Gunston kicked 7.
Jack's got 7.
Chol kicked 5. They did what they wanted at all times. They just literally, like playing an Auskick team. After a great 6 weeks of footy from North Melbourne, they rock up and give us shit.
I was expecting a result, dare I say it, not dissimilar to this. I actually thought that their victory over Carlton, this was the inevitable to happen, go to Tasmania, and Hawthorn absolutely kick them to the curb. So that's what happened. I'm not surprised, to be honest with you. They're a youngish team. I say youngish. They're a team that has taken some giant strides over the past couple of months, but it didn't actually surprise me that Hawthorn gave them a bit of a lesson. George Wardlaw's concern, I think, moving forward with his...
he's had a lot of concussions.
And that's a major concern for them. And the Hawks, they're just ticking along, aren't they, and just doing enough at the moment. They've got, obviously, got some tough games ahead, but they are a team that, if they can time their run correctly, and they've got the Saints this week...
They literally wouldn't review that game. Sam Mitchell would be like, we're going into preview mode. Like we're previewing the Saints, what they did against Freo. You wouldn't spend any time on that game. You literally, like, I'm not going to spend any more minutes on it. Hawthorn shouldn't either. You can't do it. It's like a training run. Disgraceful by North Melbourne. Adelaide 122 defeated Richmond by 54 at the MCG.
68, wasn't it? Just quietly.
Sorry. Adelaide 122 defeated Richmond 54, not by 54.
Yes, 60 was a big win.
Big win. Adelaide have now won 6 of their 10 wins by over 60 points. Their
percentage
is absolutely loaded. They sit 3rd on the ladder, above Geelong on percentage. Collingwood, by the way, are 10 points clear at the top of the ladder, so good luck catching them. Riley Thilthorpe, he looks like a bit of a Viking himself, actually. He kicks 5 goals, 12 marks. We spoke about the big incident with Tom Lynch.
Yeah. Can we talk on Dan Curtin? 26 disposals, 2 goals. And we're starting to see... Look, he was used primarily in defence at the start of his career, and I know he's just re-signed with Adelaide. Gee, he'd be a handy acquisition back in the West.
Still playing on the wing? Like, I don't know, but like he was doing some damage on the wing, and if he is still playing there, I mean, that's a really unique thing that Adelaide are doing with Dan Curtin. 26 disposals, 11 score involvements, 2 goals. And he just signed on until 2029?
Yeah, I'm not sure the length, but he's certainly...
he's not going home.
Not coming home anytime soon. 59 inside 50s to 40. This game was... Well, I was watching a bit of it before our match yesterday, and they just owned the footy in that first quarter. And
Tom Lynch had 0 touches up until halftime, then tried to knock a bloke out and had 2 touches for the game. So that is Jordan Butt's a big tick to him.
The Crows had 75 more uncontested possessions, 31 more handball receives, and 59 more uncontested marks. So it was just when I say a bloodbath, it was nothing surprising from Adelaide. And the Tigers, young team, they've been pretty good for most of this season, but they're also going to cop their a few whacks across the year.
Brisbane, Geelong, Essendon and GWS had the bye, and we are back to normality, sort of. We've still got Essendon and bloody Gold Coast, but we're done. No more buys.
Oh, so we're back to full fixture this weekend.
No more buys.
Taking for a long time.
Absolutely. But we do have, the Gold Coast Essendon that still makes the whole ladder skew-if. Will Schofield, Mark Redding, Shelter Brewing Co. Beer fresh from the Busselton foreshore. All right, Skeeter. We've had some emails and Instagram messages come in. If you want to get in contact with us, FootyCast at backchatstudios.com.au. You hit us up on social, Shelter FootyCast. Make sure you're following us there. Or you can jump on our website and that is where you put in whether the footy is better with Shelter. And we are talking shelterfootycast.com.au, Hazy20 at checkout to go and get yourself some beers. Skeet, g'day Will. Any chance you can ask Skeet if he was into the bourbons at halftime of the Waffle on Saturday? was calling superbly, I must say, in the first half. Then after halftime, making some comments that you'd see from him after a night in the man cave, calling players completely wrong names, roaring for free kicks that are not in the ballpark of being reasonable. Cheers, Zach. By the way, I absolutely love Skeeter and his work to the game here in Western Australia. What happened? You flicked the switch, did you?
No, I was I did 2 games on Saturday, so I was in between different modes.
I could just imagine you carrying on. Ball!
No, I wasn't doing that. I think I'd call it relatively with an unbiased nature.
Of course you bloody do, but it's just let me just defend Skater, which is very rare for me. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you're calling a game of waffle when you don't know the players.
Oh, that's unfair. I've done a bit of enough waffle. I do know the players. It's probably the problem is Fremantle is actually a hard ground to call from. Right. Because you're about 100 metres away from even the boundary line. And so, I'm happy. I tell you, Dave Lindsay's my right-hand man, and he's on everything. I've probably got about 700 names rolling through my head on any given weekend. So if I stuff a couple up, then it's my bad.
Take it easy on the big fellas, Zach. Far out. I don't know how you do it.
Go and have a crack, Zach. It's good fun.
I'll let you know, Zach, that Skeeter definitely worked to the last minute of the waffle game, and then literally 1 second later got in his car from Freo, drove to the 6PR studios to work his second game, and so was calling footy for about 10 hours. And by the 10th hour, had completely cracked the shits. Might have had an investment somewhere in there along the way, and he completely cracked it. And I read it, and just like Skeet does to me, I just saw it in your eyes. I saw you glazed over and looking into the distance, and we're reviewing the Collingwood game, and I just rolled in with a question, something along these lines, and we're talking about, how you get, Pendlebury and Sidebottom, and I just said, not to Skeet, I just said, it's just remarkable. Collingwood, it just seems as they get older, they get better, they get more consistent. It's almost like once they get old and starting to feel a bit weary, they just go into another level. Skeet, talk to us about that. You're probably the best to speak to of this, and you absolutely cracked it. You weren't happy.
Was that post-game, was it?
You started teeing off at me. You were teeing off at Mark Foreman. Who was sitting there.
Well, he was annoying me, and then you always annoy me. And if Pendlebury hadn't kicked that late goal, I would have been a lot happier. Seriously.
All right, here we go. I mean, Lux is coming to his defence here. Skeet is right. Unless you win the grand final, there is nothing else, and the season feels like a failure. I personally would like to see more reward for finishing first. League winner presented with a trophy at the last game of the season, and then you enter into the final series, which then almost feels like a separate competition. The only issue with this is the clear compromise fixtures, which could be sorted by everyone plays home and away or breaking the league into 2 divisions. And we spoke about this off the top, I suppose. Not sure how much more we can add.
No, but I do. I'm sort of concurring with what's said there with regards to, our competition. It is the premiership or nothing. Even in American sport, if you have a winning season,
yes,
you sort of celebrate that. But unless you... So, for instance, if you're North Melbourne and they play finals next year,
yes,
that is a reason for celebration. But outside of that, it's flag or nothing.
I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, we've almost got to the end of the show without me revealing one of the great things that happened Saturday night. And given we just spoke about what Skeeter's schedule was, he may not remember, but during the call for 6PR, which I've asked the team at 6PR to clip up, I can't remember exactly which player it was, but it was a player having a snap from the boundary.
You get a wrong name,
about 30 metres out. You don't even remember what you said here.
Yeah, I do.
So
it was 20 metres out, thank you.
Who was it?
No idea.
Whoever it was is an AFL listed player, and Skeeter made the comment, even I could score from there.
Could have scored.
Because he bellied it, it went out. And I put the challenge to you on air. Okay then, wise guy, how about this week we get you down an oval, doesn't matter which one, and we get you snapping from 20 metres out. And
I can guarantee I'll score.
Yes.
My problem is if my hamstring goes before as the ball is striking my boot.
Which is your bad knee. I don't want your leg to fly off into the distance because your leg comes off.
My reconstructed knee is my left one. My right one is just weak and insipid, so we'll see what happens.
What day can we do this week? Because we're doing it this week. We're doing it this
later in the week. It'd have to be Thursday or Friday.
Brilliant. I've cleared the schedule. Far out.
What happens if I score?
All right.
I'm just telling you. Okay, let me ask you this. Do you think players of the skill level that we see in the AFL...
I agree with you.
Close range, around the body, how many times you can put it out of bounds on the full?
I agree with you, but I can guarantee you I would score. I can't guarantee you would.
You don't understand what my footy background is.
I don't, no.
And my legs have forgotten what the...
I don't know what I'm looking more forward to. Like, you try to bloody plant with your left busted knee on the skinny little peg legs. You kicking the ball and slipping over with your runners. Have you got footy boots?
Oh, what do you reckon, idiot? You think I've got footy boots 35, 40?
What size shoe are you? I'll find some footy boots for you. I don't
need footy boots. I was wearing runners, mate. We're not playing for sheep stations. We're having a bit of fun. And I'm going to have to go and
I can almost guarantee you won't score.
I'm going to have to go and get a massage before we get my...
Before?
Who's... I need Tex Perkins. I need someone to come and... You just need some work done on my right.
I can get the full service down there for you, mate. We'll do it down at West Coast. We'll do it at Mineral Resources Park if you like.
And what if I do kick a goal?
Ladies and gentlemen, by Thursday, in the YouTube comments or on Instagram, can you let me know what we're going to do for Skeet if he kicks a goal? Or if he kicks a goal or if he scores. If you score, I reckon that's about the line. If you kick a goal from 20 metres out on the boundary, snapping, I want to know what we should do here on the Shelter FootyCast.
I'm scoring, I'm telling you. I'm going, you know what I'm doing? I'm leaving it, I'm going narrow as opposed to...
Are you going to dribble on the ground?
No, there's someone, you know...
You're just going to snap it? Okay. Well, I'm going to get the exact play and we're going to reenact it. I can't bloody wait. It's just going to be brilliant. Something bad will happen and I can't wait. I just don't know what it is yet. J Flop, to finish us off, says, wish my work colleagues would get me to have a beer at 8:15 in the morning like Scully does. Make sure you go and get yourself a hazy right now. Hazy20 at shelterbrewing.com.au. Tell us, is the footy better with Shelter? It's the hazy week this week and then... could be onto the BackChat Ales if you're lucky. Scully had Freo won the 2015 prelim. Do you think, who do you think would have won the Derby Grand Final? That's from HK on YouTube. Oh yeah, I jokingly say Freo cost us a flag in 2015 by getting done by Hawthorn in a prelim over here. It would have been certainly like
historic.
That would have been folklore forever. Whatever would have happened.
Yeah, well, the same as 06.
Yeah.
I think it was 06, 05, 06, yeah.
One of those, Freo had a chance, didn't they?
Freo got through a prelim against Sydney.
Yeah. So imagine if we had a grand final look back on where it was West Coast Freo. I don't know who would have won. I mean, the grand finals are just a different kettle of fish. It doesn't matter really what you do during the season. It's how you rock up. So
true.
It just would have been awesome for West Australians to take over the G. I'm far enough removed now to think like how good would that have been.
So what was the question? That who would have won?
Who would have won?
Yeah, obviously you're thinking
West Coast, I think. Who do you think would have won?
Oh, I can't remember how good Freo was back in the time, but they were pretty good.
They finished top of the ladder 2015.
That's right, yeah. No, I would have backed Fremantle to beat you.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, just to annoy you.
All right, we're done. Start limbering up, Skeeter, because you're going to be kicked for your life down at... I'm going to do it. Can we do it at Minres? Can we do it out the front of West Coast?
No, we'll just somewhere close by, just under the radar. Just want a quick shout out to the bloke who's taken the greatest mark of all time, yes. Damien Wood, I think that's his name.
Woody.
I think it's Damien Wood. I stand corrected. On TikTok, I think, 500,000 views. It's one of the great marks of all time in suburban country metro footy. If you get a chance to have a look on social media, have a look at it.
Do you think that I've got a chance to do that in the Carlton draft in next weekend? I'm playing footy in 2 weeks.
I know. Well, don't do
you
it.
think I can do that?
Don't do what the Fev did.
What did it?
He got involved in a melee.
Did he?
I think so.
Yeah,
Check it out.
Not ideal. I don't think I'll do that. But do you think I can take a hanger? Do you think I'm going to hang over me?
Well, I did see you take a mark playing for the Eagles in your playing forward. Yeah, that was on your chest, and you carried on like you were Alex Shizelenko. But I'm sure you'll make the most of it.
Do you think I'll kick a goal?
Yeah, I do. I think they'll
in the ruck.
I think they'll give you enough options to kick a goal. Yeah,
so with this shit you give me now, you just say, you'll kick a goal.
Yeah, because you should be, mate. You did it for 20 years. You did it for 20 years. You should be able to kick a goal playing against.
Years old, mate.
But you're playing against blokes.
2 years. You exercise more than me. I'll tell you that right now.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to exercise my hamstring very quickly.
All right, go limber up, Skeeter. We'll see you on Thursday for the kick of your life.
Shall do.